Okay, so remember, this is part two. If you haven't watched part one, make sure you go back and click part one so you catch up. This is part two. Now we're going to talk about, now that we know that Laurentia Lombaard has legal representation to stand for her rights inside Pagati, the court in Judge Dim's courtroom in the JOSHLIN Smith trial, where Laurentia Lombaard seeks immunity after testifying in the JOSHLIN Smith kidnapping case. Side note, I think it's quite interesting how the universe works, because this is a case that Gayton McKenzie is very, very passionate about, and at the same time, he's receiving a lot of heat and smoke in his own personal capacity with some words that he said. So it will be interesting to note what he will do with regards to the JOSHLIN Smith. Will he speak up, or will he stay in his tiny little corner? If you don't know why I reference tiny little corners, let me know in the comment section down below. But Laurentia Lombaard seeks immunity after testifying in the JOSHLIN Smith kidnapping case. This is an article by Robin Lee Frankie of IOL. Okay, I'm going to read it because court was very, I don't know what it is about court, or is it the JOSHLIN Smith case, and the sound is just not sounding. Anyway, so basically, the lawyer of Laurentia Lombaard, former accused turned state witness advocate Eben Van Tonder, urged the Western Cape High Court to exempt his client from any punishment. Van Tonder urged Judge Nathan Erasmus to relieve Lombaard of any charges she may face. Lombaard was the state's key witness during the trial in the disappearance of JOSHLIN Smith in Saldanha earlier this year. Lombaard was initially arrested and charged alongside Kelly Smith, Jack Buta Apollos, and Stefano Van Ryn for kidnapping JOSHLIN Smith. However, months after her arrest, Lombaard opted to become a Section 204 witness for the state, aka she just couldn't take life in jail. Okay, it was very hard for her to take life in jail, and her conscience said, you know what, let's tell the truth. So then she went ahead and provided key evidence that helped secure a conviction of the trio. The three, Kelly, Stefan, and Buta, have all been sentenced to life in prison. Van Tonder submitted that while there were some minor discrepancies found during her testimony, the court needed to take into consideration that nerves can be a factor when testifying. He actually spoke about a case where even policemen, they struggle inside the witness box. So she had never been a witness before, so this was a very, very tough time for her. Just to give you a recap, in case you weren't following the trial fully back then, Laurentia Lombaard struggled during cross-examination. She struggled so much that one day she had to be taken out. There was a medical emergency and she had to be carried off to the hospital for medical attention. And then after that, there's just many times where court had to adjourn. Well, not many, a couple of times. Let's use the right terminology. There were a couple of times where court had to adjourn because she just couldn't take the cross-examination. And critics will say that those times were mostly when the tough got going. Okay, she was having a hard time answering questions. And at one point, she literally said, I lied in that moment. I want to say the truth now. That was just like, oh, jaw-dropping. So, Van Tonder submitted that. So the lawyer submitted that. He stated that even professionals feel nervous when testifying, and many times not under such scrutiny as in this matter. So the professionals, they're nervous, and their cases, like what they're coming to testify on, is so minor compared to this. This was a huge deal. The court relied on parts of the witness's testimony for a judgment. Taking it all into account, the witness testified honestly. She made huge sacrifices, especially when it comes to her family. Her whole life has been uprooted and she was placed in witness protection, Van Tonder submitted. He said when she decided to testify, she took the investigating officer and her legal counsel into her confidence. So way before this indemnity hearing, while she was still in prison awaiting trial, she's like, nah, I'm ready to talk. I'm ready to talk. And that statement that she made was taken into consideration by the judge because she had legal representation then, and also it was recorded, and also the investigating officer was there. So everything, all the T's were crossed and the I's were dotted. Yes, her previous statements were scrutinized, but at that time it was very close in time to when the incident took place. At the time, she still accepted the agreement of a 1,000 rands payment for her silence. She was also still using Tick at the moment on a daily basis. I will show you, I think I'll put a picture here of what she looked like before and what she looks like now, as in today. Huge difference. Two different people, in my opinion. And it's sad to see that this is the effects of substances. And also, imagine a case where we're just talking about 1,000 rands for her silence. To her, that was like a lot of money. This is going to get me more tick and more substances. And she's been using substances for at least from a very, very young age. If I remember correctly, I think she dropped out of high school. And she probably started when she was 16. I want to think it was even earlier than that. But yeah, and since then she's been consistently on substances. So that time, it's also being the fact that she was, withdrawal symptoms and stuff is what they're using to say, listen, she was having a tough time, okay? It was a tough time. She's in witness protection. She's not with her kids. She has 4 children. 2 of the children she has with Ayanda. If you know who Ayanda is, drop it in the comment section. And Ayanda disappeared with the kids. Her youngest kids. She also, at the time, was still using Tick on a daily basis, but as time went on, her conscience got the better of her and she wanted to tell the truth. Van Tonda submitted. He told the court his client admitted that there were untruths and she had much to lose as she knows that her possible immunity from prosecution would have insensitivized her to be honest. The court must have. Okay, so in her statement, there were some things that were not true. So now that she's seen the light of day, she's no longer that on substances, the withdrawal symptoms have come off, she's living in witness protection, obviously benefiting from witness protection, which is the police/fund. And I think she's living in much better conditions than she was before. It played a role, and she wanted to be honest with the court, and that's when she admitted to the lies. The court must have found some parts or type of reliance in her. Sorry, there's typos in here. The court must have found some part or type of reliance in her testimony to find its judgment. The testimony of Miss Lombard did, in fact, help the state. The court ruled that it found sufficient corroboration for the reliability of the witness's testimony, which was also supported by circumstantial evidence. Van Tonda submitted. Lombard's testimony blew the case right open and sent shockwaves through the courtroom when she revealed that JOSHLIN had been sold for 20,000 rands. While her testimony was filled with some holes and questionable actions, it helped the state secure both the conviction and the sentence in the landmark case. During the trial, the court heard that Kelly had a violent streak. Lombard also confirmed the group's excessive substance use. Lombard testified how Kelly received a call and spoke English during it. Thereafter, she told Buta how someone wanted JOSHLIN, but he was not willing to listen at the time. The court further heard that on Sunday, February 18th, 2024, Kelly took JOSHLIN and went to the roadway and met with the woman who alighted from a white VW Polo. This woman, she assumed to be a Sangoma who had white spots in her face, was dressed in a green blouse, skirt and duke. Lombard stated she watched the scenario play out from behind the boulders in the middle pass. Kelly was handed something from the woman which she stuck in the front of her pants. Lombard told the court she later overheard a conversation between Kelly and Buddha as she stood behind the shack they lived in. Kelly told Buta the Sangoma had given her 20,000 rands. She later confirmed to Lombard that she sold Jocelyn for 20,000 rands because she was struggling and needed the money. Lombard testified Kelly had promised to pay her 1,000 rands and Stefano 1,200 rands. The rest of the money will be spent between her and Buddha. Listen, it was a whole scene in the court, okay? A whole scene with regards to Laurentia Lombaard describing, and by the way, in the court or amongst her friends, she's also known as Renz. So if I call her Renz, just know I'm referring to Laurentia at the same time. So Renz literally gave a description, a vivid description of what happened on that day that Jocelyn disappeared. And she says that she watched everything and she saw everything from the car that was parked near the car wash. So the JOSHLIN SMITH trial, very early in the case, they did an inspection in loco. So they did the inspection in loco. So these rocks, the judge vividly says, while Laurentia Lombaard is giving her testimony, the judge says, how could you have seen all the way over there to the car wash? How could you have seen what they were doing in the car? And she explained that, yeah, I could see from the rocks. And the judge is like, that's 100 meters away. There's no way you could have seen that detail from 100 meters away. The judge used the courtroom as an example. The court was in the sports center. So it was a huge building that the court was in, and the judge says, it's okay, can you see the police officer at the door? This is in the court at the time during the trial while she was on the witness stand, and she's like, no, I can't see what they're doing. And the judge is like, if you can't see there, how could you possibly see what was happening over 100 meters away? And she said, and then there was a lot of back and forth, and then it was determined that there was another section where she was standing and not where the judge thought it was. So, yeah, it will be quite interesting. And I like the fact that the advocate here says, well, the court used parts of her judgment to get a conviction. The other three are already serving life sentences. Their legal representation are here today to submit an appeal, a request for an appeal. So, yeah, no, we can't totally say that she lied in her testimony because the court used her testimony. So therefore, I agree with that statement. So the question now is, will the judge actually grant her indemnity, actually grant her to walk away scot-free, or will he sentence her for the part that she paid? So even though for some strange reason Kelly, according to Renz, right, Kelly was going to pay her 1,000 rands and Stefano 1,200 rands. I don't know what the 200 rands difference is. I believe, she wanted to play a minimal role in the money situation. So, however, Lombard claimed she never received the money. She even went into detail about how they planned on how Jocelyn would disappear, and she told the court how she saw Jocelyn loaded into the same vehicle with the same woman on February 19, 2024. The JOSHLIN SMITH case is highly traumatic. What was even traumatic is how the three in the court had no remorse. At times, accused Steffi, accused number 3. Accused number 2, actually, because Kelly was accused number 3. Accused number 2 would be giggling and laughing his way away in the court. But then some of the testimonies, so when Laurentia was on the witness stand, so remember her testimony from the defense end is being seen as false, that she's lying. Some parts she would be testifying on, the life that they lived, because their lives were pretty intertwined, because for some reason, I think socioeconomic reasons rather, Laurentia would go and ask for food for her children from Kelly. Okay, Kelly was the only one in the group who was working. So I imagine that they had more food supplies and provisions, including more access to substances. Steffi would laugh. He would burst out laughing. There's a story about a microwave that Laurentia Lombaard was telling the court. And just to prove that was a true story, Steffi on the other side burst out laughing in the court, confirming that the story is actually true. So I'm going to end this right here. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Laurentia was asked to stay in court. She had to stay in court. until the judge made a decision. But her legal representative, Advocate Van Tonder, was exempt from remaining in court because he'd done his part, the pro bono part. Remember, legal aid refused to pay him. So the judge asked Mr. Van Tonder if he could represent Laurentia Lombaard on a pro bono basis. And you know how these legal things go. It takes a lot of time. I guess the agreement that Van Tonder had, if I'm going to do this pro bono, I'm not going to sit in court endlessly for days upon days. I'm just going to do my application for Laurentia, and then I get to go. And I guess the judge says, sure, no problem. I think that works because that's the most important part, that she has representation and that her application is submitted legally correct. So with that, I end this video. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Don't forget to share this video so that people are aware Laurentia was back in court today. And I say share because a lot of people used to come in the comment section and ask me, have you been, any updates, any updates, any updates? And trust me, I was checking as well. And, then after a while, it was kind of like, you know what, I guess maybe they did this in private since she's a Section 204 witness. She's in witness protection. Maybe they just didn't want this part of the public. But no, it had to do with legal aid. Catch video 1. I did post and explain exactly what happened with legal aid. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. You already know. I absolutely love it when you do. If you've made it this far in the video, thank you so much. I appreciate your support. Thanks for watching the ads. And I'll catch you, of course, on my next upload. Bye.
Ms. Lombard, you have to remain present until I finally have ruled on the issue. Kom met die Afrikaans praat?
Yes, my lord.
Ze wees net geduldig.